what is anthropology? Yes, write it down. First is what? What is anthropology? Now, anthropology, the etymology of this word anthropology, etymology means the composition of this words, which is composed of two different parts. It is developed because of two words. First is anthropos plus logos. For example, you have psychology. There also, first part is psycho, second is logy. Yes, biology, biology. Logy means to study. Logy means to study, while anthropos refers to, it's a Greek term for man. Now again we know the gender rights, gender equality is a very new phenomena. New phenomena का मतलब ये नहीं कल चालू हुआ है. It has developed in only 40-50 years, recent 40-50 years. People online, keep noting down. Okay. So anthropos refers to what? Man. Man is a traditional term that is used to refer to the humanity itself. Okay. So we can also use the term here, humans. So first is you should be able to highlight that etymologically it is composed of two terms, anthropos and logos. You written? Anthropos and logos, right? First, understanding the meaning of the term itself. But that does not clearly make us understand what exactly are we dealing with here. When we say that anthropology deals with the study of the man, so simply the conclusion comes out to be what? To study man, or maybe sometimes to scientifically study man. But what different are we doing? What different are we doing? Every other discipline is doing the same thing. Political science is dealing with the study of man only. They are understanding and learning what? Political systems of the human beings only. They are not learning about the political systems of the animals. Yes or no? That there is a queen bee and the other soldier bees will conduct a military coup on the queen bee and take the position of power. Political science is not understanding that. Agree? Yes or no? So then what makes us different? In this, there are certain definitions that have been given by anthropologists. So in anthropology, whenever we are trying to explain any concept, we should use such definitions. It is really, really important. Fine. For example, if you are asked, if you go through the syllabus, first topic is meaning, scope, and development of anthropology, right? If you are asked to define anthropology, you cannot define it on your own. You'll have to define it in terms of some of the anthropologists who have provided definition, and then maybe analyze those definitions to highlight the important characteristics of the anthropology. Agreeing, everybody? So in this line, write down certain definitions of anthropology. We're keeping it really simple today, starting with very basic so that you get accustomed to how we are going to go on from here. First definition has been given by A.L. Kroeber. Kroeber says that anthropology is the science of man. Anthropology is the science of man. And while you're writing these definitions, use quote, unquote. You have to write these definitions in quote, referring to who has given this particular definition. According to A.L. Kroeber, anthropology is the study of, or anthropology is the science of man. The next anthropologist here is Melville J. Herzkowitz. Herzkowitz, he says that anthropology is the study of man and his works. Anthropology is the study of man and his works. Now, what is the basic thing that you can understand from this particular definition? We have understood that human beings over the course of evolution developed certain distinct biological characteristics, which helped it in developing a distinct or unique culture. Agree? So then Kroeber here is referring to what? So then Herzkowitz here is referring to what? The study of man and his works. Man here refers to what? The biological organism that the man is. The physical aspects of anthropology that we study, that is part of your syllabus. The biological organism that the man is. And works here refer to what? Whatever ideas, values, behaviors that the man has developed or humanity has developed during this course of evolution as a part of learned behavior and shared behavior is what? Culture. So work refers to what? Works refer to the culture of the man, biological organism and his works, cultures. So when we study anthropology, we are not studying human beings biologically in isolation, or we are not just concerned with the cultures. We are concerned with both the aspects together. For example, on the one hand, we'll try to understand the development of biological anatomy in the form of, let's say, erect posture or bipedalism. On the other hand, parallelly, we'll try to understand what? How associated with this was the development of culture? Or did the culture in the first place influence the human anatomy? Agree? These are two strands in the anthropology. Getting it? Biology and culture, and they go hand in hand. Even today, the culture impacts our biology. A very simple example of this is, have you heard about the term lactose intolerance? It's a very common term that we listen to these days. Lactose intolerance is basically what? People who cannot digest milk. Yes? Now, mammals in their childhood, we are also mammals, who are fed by their mothers in the childhood, in the infant stage, initially. Yes? There's a sugar in the milk, which is lactose. Yes? To digest this sugar, there's an enzyme that is secreted, which is called as what? Lactase. Lactase. There's an enzyme which is called as what? Lactase. Lactose is the sugar in the milk. To digest this, you need what? Lactase enzyme. To digest lactose, you need lactase enzyme. Okay. But in different parts of the world, it is found that different communities do not possess the ability to digest these lactose sugars. Yes. So first is what? Here is, we find that there is a lactose sugar, which is a sugar in the milk. To digest this, you need what? Lactase, which is an enzyme that is secreted. Now, the thing is, in other mammals, the biology of these mammals is such that after the crossing of infant stage, the dependency on the mother when it comes to an end, the ability to secrete lactase enzyme is considerably reduced or eliminated altogether, right? But in human beings, in certain areas, this ability is still present while it is absent in other areas. And normally it has been found that what? People living in the temperate areas. Temperate areas are which areas? High latitudes. High latitudes beyond 40-degree latitude or even beyond that. These are what? High latitudes. These are called as temperate areas. While the areas close to equator are termed as what? Tropical areas. The incidences of lactose intolerance are more in tropical areas. Are more in what? Tropical areas. Normally, when we listen to this term lactose intolerance, we find that the Western people are using this term quite often. That we have lactose intolerance because they might have heard about this term and people have started understanding that we have a lactose intolerance, which is not the clear understanding of this. When anthropologists try to explain this phenomena, biology, of course, explains that mammals do not produce lactase enzyme after a point of time in their development. Yes, still some people have the capability of producing the lactase enzyme, and that is why they are able to what? Digest the lactose, sugar, which is present in the milk. That is why it does not cause lactose intolerance in some of the populations, while it still causes lactose intolerance in some of the population because they do not possess this lactase enzyme. So temperate people do not have such lactose intolerance, while the tropical people have what? Intolerance. Intolerance leads to what? Certain symptoms like indigestion, cramps, gastric troubles. Yes? Now, when anthropologists try to explain this, they say that lactose plays the same role that vitamin D plays. Lactose plays the same role that vitamin D plays, and this role is absorption of calcium. Absorption of calcium. Okay, absorption of calcium. So when we say which is the best source of vitamin D? Sunlight. Sunlight will be available more in which areas? Sunlight will be available more in which areas throughout the year? Tropical areas. While the sunlight will not be available in which areas? Temperate areas. Which means what? They have reduced capability of what? Absorbing vitamin D, and as such reduced capability of what? Absorbing calcium. Accordingly, culturally, they have developed dairying. Dairying is also prevalent in high latitudes in temperate areas in a very high intensity. So their dependency on milk and milk products has over generations and millions of years have provided them the capability of what? Still being able to produce the lactase enzyme, and as such not having any kind of lactose intolerance. While the people in the tropical areas, they are normally getting vitamin D through the sunlight. And they are able to do what? Absorb calcium through the presence of this vitamin D. And they need not produce what? Lactase enzyme. So this is how things have changed. Now, biology might not be concerned with such kind of an understanding itself, right? So cultural development of dairying and of course environmental factors have led to what? The development of or the production of lactase enzyme in some of the populations in the temperate areas, while not so in the tropical areas. So then comes the question of what? We try to understand human beings in totality. We try to understand what? Human beings in totality. Had biology tried to answer this question, they would have drawn the analogy from maybe mammals. And if you go to a doctor and say that I have lactose intolerance, he will find that this person is not able to do what? Produce lactase enzyme, and will stop at that. Anthropology goes forward, even beyond that, right? And tries to understand the overall dimensions of this phenomena at a population level. Yes, and how it is understood at a cultural level. So initially, when it was found in America, in the African American population, which were mostly living in tropical areas or had migrated from these tropical areas in the recent past. Recent past means maybe some thousands of years itself, right? These children, African American children who were mostly blacks, they did not drink milk. They found what? They found that these children do not drink milk. Then they tried to find a cause or reason behind this. So the people who were teaching these kids, they found that maybe because of their socioeconomic condition or socioeconomic deprivation, these people do not drink milk. Unaware of such understanding. Only through researches conducted in the subsequent times, it was understood that it is not a very common layman's understanding. You cannot impose a simple understanding on any kind of phenomena. There's a different way of understanding different phenomena. This is a very unique curiosity in anthropology. So it tries to do what? Understand the human beings in totality. A very simple phenomena like lactose intolerance has been dealt with in such a dimension. Yes or no? So in this, the next definition that comes out is, it is given by Clyde Gluckon. He then says that out of all the sciences, which study various aspects of man, yes, Chavi, of course, environment also changes genetic makeup. This is termed as natural selection. Yes or no? Natural selection is basically what? Population living in a particular habitat, having a particular variation, which is in harmony with that environment, will be able to survive and reproduce viable offsprings. This is simple natural selection. Got it, Chavi? This is a part in evolution we'll study there. But here, keep in mind that all the things interact with each other. Whatever we are behaving, the way in which we are behaving, it is not just genetically determined. It is also determined by the environment. It is also determined by the culture. Yes or no? A simple phenomena like reproduction, all other species are doing. Human beings are also doing. Yes. But finding a mate for reproduction in animals is what? Random. Do they have any rule? कि आधे इधर आधे उधर, choose your partner, go ahead. Is there any rule? Yes, is there any rule? No, there is no rule. However, in human beings, we have culture. We have shared ideas and values about how to reproduce in this community, which is reflected in what? Which institution? Marriage. है कि नहीं? Can you reproduce without marriage? Of course you can. Possibility is there. But socially it will not be acceptable then. Agreeing? Yes? Fine. So write down. Clyde Gluckon says, out of all the sciences which study various aspects of man, anthropology is the one which comes nearest to the total study of the man. Anthropology is the one which comes nearest to the total study of man. Which comes nearest to the total study of the man. Fine. So at least these two definitions should be remembered while defining anthropology. First is given by the Herzkovitz. It is the study of man and his works. Second is that anthropology comes nearest to the what? Total study of the man. Fine. And then there is a third or fourth definition, which has been given by M. Jacob, J-A-C-O-B, M. Jacob, and B.T. Stern. B.T. Stern. He says that anthropology is the scientific study of physical, social, and cultural development and behavior of human beings since their appearance on Earth. So it looks like a broad definition of anthropology, which highlights that it is consisting of what? Physical, consisting of biological, physical, social, cultural aspects. And that too, we are trying to understand it from what? From the times when the human beings appeared on this planet. Getting it? In the next part, write down. In the next part, write down analysis of these definitions. Analysis of these definitions. So when you write answers also, what you're going to do is you're going to quote a few definitions. Of course, you'll not be able to remember all of these. But the most simple one that you can remember, at least start the answer with that. Yes, because once the course progresses, there will be n number of definitions that you will have at your disposal. But at least we should be able to learn one or two definitions verbatim. That fetches you good marks. That is appreciated by the examiners. Getting it? Fine. So in the analysis part, we can say that Herzkowitz, we can say what? Herzkowitz here is referring to man as a biological organism. Man as a biological organism and his works as culture. Does anthropology accepts and uses anthropology accepts and uses general principles of biological and social sciences. People online, you are also keeping pace? Writing things down? Fine. It would be good if you turn on your cameras so that at least in the first class, I know some of you. Yeah, sure. But where do we turn off? Okay. Somebody can turn off this fan from there? Okay. Hence, it can be considered as a biosocial science. It can be considered as what? Biosocial science. The next line. It is the most humanistic among sciences. Write these three in point-wise format, right? First, man and his works. Second point, accepts and uses the general principles. Third point, like this, right? Point number 1, point number 2, point number 3. Fine. Third point is, it is the most humanistic among sciences. And the most scientific among the humanities. Fine. Then next pointers. It comes nearest to the total study of the mankind that we have studied. Kluckhohn has said that. It comes nearest to the total study of the mankind. It lends it a very unique characteristic. A term that is very often used for anthropology is the holistic approach in anthropology. Right? A term that is used is what? Holistic approach. Holistic approach in anthropology. Accordingly, the total study of man refers to, write down, the total study of the man refers to the holistic and integrated nature of the discipline. Next point, studies physical, social, and cultural development. Studies physical, social, and cultural development in time and space. In time and space. Fine. Time means what? How over the course of evolution, we have developed physically, socially, culturally, right? And then once we have reached the stage where we are presently, in spatial terms, that is at a geographical level, how different people have different cultures, right? So time means over a period of time, how we have evolved, and space means spatially, how do we vary here? Getting it? This is the second important aspect of it. So you've written 4 or 5 points about this thing. Then we are going to write, does it studies differences as well as similarities. In all periods and in all parts of the world. Studies what? Differences as well as similarities. In what? In all periods and what? In all parts of the world. Yes, in all parts of the world. It is interested in this, which means it is interested in what? These differences will highlight what? Differences, while similarities will highlight what? Universals. Okay, so next line, write down. It is interested in finding out. It is interested in finding out universals, and differences. Okay. So in biological anthropology, for example, we study what? We compare human anatomy with that of what? Apes. Fine. So if we have to find out similarities, what can be the very basic similarity? That we share 98% of the genes. We share 98% of the genes with whom? Chimpanzees. Yes. Both are part of what? Primate order. Both are part of primate order. These are what? Universals. These are similarities. And then we go on highlighting the differences in terms of anatomy. Okay. Oh, okay. किसको बात करनी है? आप लोग को? अच्छा, ठीक है, डन. Okay, 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 okay. Fine. So write down as an example. Human beings are primates. In the example, first biological. In the example, first write biological. Below that, write similarities. Because we are looking at what? Similarities as well as what? Differences or universals and differences. So in biological, what are the similarities first? And as an example. So first similarity in this is what? Human beings are also primates like chimpanzees. Human beings are also primates like chimpanzees and share 98% of the genetic material. And when it comes to differences, write down. Differences are many. Just write down briefly. First is bipedalism. 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 Then ability to communicate through language. Getting it? Ability to communicate through language. So we have found out that what? It is interested in finding out universals as well as differences, or similarities as well as differences. So in terms of biological anthropology, we have found out what? We have found out certain similarities. We are just giving you an example here. When you will study the primatology, you yourself will be able to generate such examples, more number of examples. It is not only the one example, right? But this is the essence that we need to understand what exactly anthropology is dealing with. So it is looking at what? Universals as well as differences or diversity, right? These are the two things. When it comes to culture, same thing can be applied again. This is what anthropology is interested in. Finding out what? Universals as well as what? Differences. What can be a very simple example of it? Marriage. Yes, marriage is said to be an universal institution. Universal institution, why? Not that everybody is getting married, but in all the societies, because we here deal with cultures. We deal with a collection of people, not with individuals. Yes, we deal with what? Collection of people. So in this, marriage is prevalent in all the societies. It highlights what? A universal character to the institution of marriage. Again, a universal thing. Marriage is found in all the societies. It is what? Universal. But the way in which people marry is different in different societies. Some practice monogamy, that is one individual marrying one individual. Some practice polygamy, one man marrying more number of women. some practicing polyandry, one woman marrying more than one man. Yes or no? So there are differences, considerable differences in the cultural practices. Universally, we have found what? That marriage is a universal institution. Accordingly, when we study marriage, we are going to do what? First, define what is marriage. Because of the n number of practices that we find in terms of marriage, we will be having a difficulty in defining the marriage in the first place. Right? So then there are different thinkers that will quote again definitions. Fine. And then we are going to go about in understanding what? Describing how are there variations in the way in which people marry. For example, monogamy, a practice in which one individual marries one individual. And when more than one individual is marrying more than one individuals, then it becomes polygamy, polyandry, and so on. So write down cultural. We have written biological, similarities and differences. Then next is example is cultural. In this, what is universal? Marriage is a near universal institution. Marriage is a near universal. Because sometimes if we write it as universal, it becomes questionable. So write it as near universal. So marriage is near universal and found in all human societies. Now there are certain rules of marrying, right? There are certain rules of marrying, whom you can marry and whom you cannot marry. In this, a common term that is used is what? Incest taboo. What is incest taboo? That you are not allowed to marry your closely related individuals. For example, you cannot marry within your own family. You cannot marry your siblings. And it is a universal phenomenon. Some allow marrying the cousins, but not their real blood siblings. This is an incest taboo. So incest taboo is also universal. So we have seen what? Marriage, a near universal institution. Incest taboo, again, a near universal practice. Yes. So in culture, universal, 2 examples you can quote. Detailed study will be done later when we study sociocultural anthropology and marriage as an institution in detail. Right? Then there are theories that why did the incest taboo start in the first place? Yes. So different thinkers have given their different understanding of this practice of incest taboo. Because there is a possibility. Biologically, there is a possibility. But why are different societies not practicing? And why is it prevalent everywhere? There might be something unique to it. Maybe there is some biology involved. Maybe there is some cultural practice involved. Yes. Maybe there is some taboo. Yes or no? So then, in the universal, we have seen this. So incest taboo prohibiting sexual relations between closely related individuals. Fine. While when you talk about variations, first, culture. In culture, examples, first we have given biological. In biological, we have found out what? Similarities and differences. Again, we are going to write out in culture what? Universal or similarities. And then differences. In differences, we are going to write down the different ways or different cultural practices related to marriage. For example, write down polygamy, polyandry, polygamy, polyandry, endogamy, exogamy, levirate, and sororate marriages. Fine. In levirate, liver means brother. In sororate, soror means sister. So in case a man, this is the symbol for man, is married to a woman. Okay. Let's say this man dies. There's a possibility. Then the woman who is left behind has to marry the deceased individual's brother. Liver means brother. So marrying the brother of the deceased husband. It is what? Levirate. And then in another scenario, if the wife dies, then this man has to marry the sister of this deceased wife. This is what? Sororate. Soror means sister. Getting it? No need to write down this, but we will, of course, discuss it in detail. But just for the sake of understanding, I have highlighted this thing. Okay. So we have found out what it is interested in: universals and differences, or similarities and differences. We have highlighted this through examples, both in biological anthropology as well as in cultural anthropology. This is how you can write the answer as well. Getting it? First, defining it, then analyzing the definitions and different dimensions that have been highlighted in these definitions, right? And then giving certain examples to highlight what has been understood through an analysis of these things. Getting it? Fine. Any issue in this? Okay. Now, even when we say that anthropology is unique, or anthropology deals with the total study of the man, another aspect that can be asked to you in the examination, and that has often been asked, is the uniqueness of anthropology. What is so unique about anthropology? We say that, yes, it is different. It has certain relations with other disciplines also. But what is so unique about anthropology? Maybe it is in the approach. Maybe it is in some sort of methods. Yes, that can be one of the aspects. So in this line, we have to understand the uniqueness or the distinctiveness of anthropology. This is another theme that we need to understand here. First, we understood what is anthropology through a few definitions, their analysis, and few examples. Right? Next thing that you need to write down is, write down the heading of it. Heading is uniqueness or distinctiveness of anthropology. Fine. In this, there are 4 things that make anthropology unique or distinctive. There are 4 clearly identifiable areas which have been understood by analyzing various anthropological works, which makes this discipline distinctive, right? We always have to remember these 4 things. And this is the essence of this particular discipline. Write down. First is holistic approach. Holistic approach / sometimes it is termed as holism in anthropology. Holism, right? Second is cultural relativism. Cultural relativism. Third is fieldwork tradition / participant observation. Right? And fourth is cross-cultural comparison. Okay. So we will deal with these parts one by one. First is holistic approach. Second is cultural relativism. Third is your participant observation and fieldwork tradition. And fourth as what? Cross-cultural comparisons in the next class. But just giving you a brief outline of what these things mean right now. Got it? Now, when we said that, Kluckhohn said that it is the science that comes nearest to the total study of the mankind. At that point, what did he highlight? Highlighted the holism and the holistic approach of anthropology. And it is also reflected in what? The different branches of anthropology. Yes, different branches of anthropology. For example, in your syllabus itself, you find what? Primate studies. You find what? Evolution. You find human genetics. You find what? Archaeology. You find socio-cultural anthropology. These are what? Different dimensions, almost dealing with all the aspects of the human being. So one thing is that it is dealing with these different dimensions of the human beings. Right? Second dimension of this is what? Second dimension is that even when individually in these subparts, when we are dealing with a particular aspect of the human being, there also we are dealing with it in a holistic manner. For example, when we are trying to understand lower Paleolithic age, let's say, we got to make a sense of which species before the human beings was living in that particular period. That we'll find through what? Through study of fossils, which is called as what? Paleontology. The study of fossils of closely related species of humans, right? These are what? Paleontology. Then we are going to understand the climate of that time. What were the resources that were available to those individuals who were living in that time period? Through what? Understanding of geology, paleontology, geology, right? Then tools and techniques. Tools and techniques which are taught in archaeology. Tools and techniques that were developed during these periods, right? Were these chopper tools? Were these blade tools? Different kinds of techniques, technologies. So we are going to deal with them, which means what? Even when we are individually dealing with them, we are trying to create a larger picture of the phenomena by taking help from different disciplines. First is anthropology as a discipline deals with different dimensions of the man in totality, that is holistic approach. Second is even when it is dealing with individual aspects of the human beings, there also it is doing what? It is dealing with them holistically by borrowing different dimensions, right? In this, one of the important things that is done is, let's say, it is termed as ethnographic studies. One important part in anthropology is ethnographic studies. Now, ethnographic studies are basically what? These are description of particular communities. For example, there was an anthropologist, W.H.R. Rivers. Fine. He was a British anthropologist and he studies the Toda tribe in Nilgiris. And this ethnographic studies are normally called as monograph. That is, they are going to write down everything that they know about Toda. What is their racial characteristic? What is their economic system like? How do the Todas marry? What are the different cultural practices? How does their economy look like? How is the political aspects of Toda community? So these are what? Ethnographic studies. So in this itself, they have dealt with what? All the dimensions. This itself is also what? An holistic approach. Fine. So we'll understand the development of the holistic approach first. Second aspect which makes it unique is what? Cultural relativism. When you go and study any other culture, you have the tendency of what? Imposing your morals and values on the other cultural practices. Let's say you are trying to study some culture from Africa. Yes, as an anthropologist. You find a very different kind of practice there. Let's say you go to Kalahari Desert, there is a community by the name Kung. the Kungs of Kalahari. You find that these are nomadic. You find that these mostly are naked during the day or near naked. Fine. And they do not have much belongings. Like today, we have so many belongings. This is the age of material culture. We are buying things every day. You find that they do not have much belongings. Yes. And then, because you are viewing their practices from your cultural lens, the culture in which you live, you might have a tendency of understanding them as backward, quote unquote. Yes, you will stamp them as what? That these are backwards, nomadic, do not wear clothes, do not have material possessions, and in fact, they are not much dealing with what? The monetary system that we use today. And you might have a tendency of telling or looking at them as what? Backward. This is what the initial evolutionary anthropologists did. When they termed that these are not actually backward, these are at a primitive stage of socio-cultural evolution. They are in their stage of savagery. This is what they would have explained it this way, right? So this kind of a lens is termed as what? Ethnocentric lens. This kind of a perception of viewing other cultures through your perception, through your cultural lens is termed as what? Ethnocentric. Ethnocentric means I will view the other culture based on my ethnicity and my cultural practices. Ethnocentric. On the other hand, Franz Boas, another anthropologist from America, he believed that this ethnocentric view is not justified and it is actually breeding practices like racism. And hence he gave another concept or approach which was termed as what? Cultural relativism. That is viewing their practices in the context of their community and their culture, not from our cultural point of view. Maybe the Kungs live in Kalahari. Kalahari is a desert. The environment is harsh. Water is not available. Irrigation is not available, which means they are not able to produce food crops through agriculture. That is why they are in the stage of what? They are using what? Hunter-gathering. They are hunters and gatherers. Then heat is so high in that environment. That is why maybe they are wearing less clothes. Fine. So looking and trying to understand these aspects from their cultural perspective, not from our cultural lens, not imposing our values on them. Fine. But then there can come a problem in this. You will tend to justify what? All the practices that are happening in all the cultures. Through cultural relativism, you have now got a lens through which you can justify all the cultural practices that are happening in other cultures. Kuch bhi justify kar do. Can we do that? For example, the Todas in 1906, according to WHR Rivers, they practice female infanticide. Is it justified? For example, Konyaks in Nagaland, the Konyak Nagas, when they attacked their rival tribes, they had the practice of head hunting. They don't just have to kill those tribal population of the other tribes. They will kill them, cut their head and take this head back. This is called as what? Head hunting in Konyak Nagas. So it's a dilemma now. What to do with such practices? क्या करें फिर? Cultural relativism ठीक है कि गलत है? Participate, say yes, no. Do I look intimidating? What to do with the cultural relativism then? Or for all its glory, to understand different cultures, not having an ethnocentric view, what to do now? Now we are in a dilemma now. How to handle this dilemma now? So then the justifications come in anthropology and they highlight that to understand the female infanticide in Todas or to understand the practice of head hunting, we will have to have a neutral approach or objective approach. Otherwise, we will not be able to appreciate what exactly is happening. And this understanding level, the cultural relativism lens that we adopt for understanding these practices, should not be viewed as passing on value judgment. It is just for the sake of explanation that what exactly do they think? Why exactly are they practicing such things? Right? Getting it? We will say that this is at best an approach which is required to understand what the community that is practicing a particular cultural practice is thinking actually. And what role is it playing in their way of life? Right? So this objectivity will make us understand why exactly are they doing it in the first place. And then maybe if you want to bring about any substantial change or improvement, this anthropological understanding will come handy. Otherwise, you will have the tendency of what? Outrightly condemning such approach. Outrightly condemning such practices ki ye to bilkul galat hai. Some people are practicing monogamy. We hear it very often that ye to bilkul galat hai. Yes or no? We listen to these things very normally. That polygamy, it's a very wrong practice. In fact, before 1950s, when the polygamy was banned in Hindus, it was widely practiced in Hindus also. Yes. So cultural relativism broadens your horizon. It makes you understand different cultural practices in their cultural context. And the understanding of these cultural contexts and the cultural practices in those contexts should not be construed or understood as passing off any judgment on these particular practices. Got it? Then here comes in this two kinds of views. Emic view and etic view of culture. Which views? Emic and etic. Emic is a person who is practicing any kind of cultural practice, who is a part of that culture, what he is thinking or she is thinking. Any cultural practice, if a community is doing, a person of that community, what that particular person is thinking about that practice. This is termed as what? Emic view. While we, the outsiders, how we view it, we will term as what? Etic view. Right? And both are important in understanding a particular phenomena. If you ask somebody that you practice incest taboo, why are you practicing it? They might have different justifications for these practices, which is what? Emic view. Ki tauba tauba, ye to hamare yahan nahi karte. We don't do this. Right? It is not acceptable in our community. Emic view. The etic view will come out with maybe some biological justification. And a mix of both these will lead to, again, what? A holistic approach. Will lead to what? A holistic approach in understanding a particular phenomena. Right? So this is how you understand what? Cultural relativism. Tomorrow we will discuss the other two and try to again come up with a particular understanding of holistic approach, cultural relativism, different dimensions of it. Third is cross-cultural comparisons, as well as what? Fieldwork, tradition, and participant observation. Tomorrow, I think we don't have a class. We have weekend. After that, on Monday, we will do this. On this weekend, I expect everybody of you to read at least first chapter of Amber and Amber. Write it down in the notebook, otherwise you will forget. Assignment is what? First chapter of Amber and Amber. Divide your pages into two parts, right? Prepare a margin. In the margin, on the right side, write down few casual things that we are discussing. For example, emic, etic, if you find any examples. So when you go to emic, etic, you can understand, okay, we have just heard about this thing, right? For rough work kind of thing or running notes. Proper notes I'm dictating, you write them down on the left part, on the right or left, wherever you create a margin. It will be easy for you to understand these things, right? Okay. So Amber and Amber first chapter. And 11th class Kerala SCRT's first chapter. They talk about what is anthropology, right? What we have discussed. Any doubts till now? No doubts? People who are online, you are expected to stay online because there is some communication that needs to be done. Okay. See, you can have soft copies, but it is really important to have your own hard copies of these books. Okay, because they always stay with you. You have a photographic memory after a point of time that, okay, I studied this there. So that is why I recommend personally a physical copy of these books. Yes. From their perspective, ethic is somebody outsider who is viewing it. Yes, so maybe there is a group, there are individuals, and there are outsiders. So when they are viewing, it is ethic. And when the one who is part of that community is viewing, it is emic. Right? Yes. Any doubt about this? Done? Can I expect everybody of you to read the first chapters of these two books? Or at least the first chapter of Kerala State SCRT book? Right? See you on Monday then. Yes, online people, Saurabh Day. Yes, you guys can leave, no problem. If you have any queries, stay back. Yes, Chinmoy.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Sir, I was wondering, like, can we create a WhatsApp group
Yes, of course
and
we
add
can
you
create.
in it?
We will create
Uh,
once after the first 3 classes.
okay.
First, I expect you to study the first chapter. Right?
Okay, sir.
We will create one,
Okay.
no worries about it. Okay?
And secondly, sir, about the timing, sir.
Timing.
Is it going to be the same timing, 3:30 to 5:30?
Timings is going to be the same. I think 3:30 to 5:30 only.
Okay, because I'm also enrolled in the GS Foundation class, so I had to miss the first 3:30 to 5:30 wala GS class.
You can see the recordings if you wish.
Okay.
I
And
think it
sir,
will be available. Huh.
okay, sir. And thirdly, the screen, sir. When you were
Okay.
showing showing us the screen, sir, some PPTs you showed. So उसमें ना
Yes.
sir reflection and shadows होते थे, so we could not see them properly
Okay,
sometimes.
I'll check it out with the admin team. They will help me in correcting it. Okay.
Okay.
Actually, when the
Thank you,
background is white, it normally reflects. When the background is black, it does not reflect much. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Fine. Anybody else having a question? People online? Okay, there will be a communication from the admin team. Just wait, online people. Saurabh Day, you take my number and call me because I think you are too early. Recording is on. Just a second. I'll write down my number. Just a second. I'll talk about it. This is my number, Saurabh. Just drop me a message here. Fine, and we can discuss things. Okay? It's Saurabh. Fine. Anybody else having any query? You can join. Prabhat, yes, tell me.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hi.
Yes, sir. Namaste, sir.
Namaste.
सर आपने लास्ट में क्या बताया था मैं समझ नहीं पाया बिकॉज मेरे एंड से नेटवर्क इशू हो गया था
ये होलिज्म और कल्चरल रिलेटिविज्म
नहीं ये सर वो तो मैं समझ गया सर जैसे आपने बता रहा था कि एम्बर पढ़ना है उसके बाद एससीईआरटी 11th क्लास का फर्स्ट चैप्टर पढ़ना है और क्या बताया आप कुछ बोल रहे थे इधर से
नहीं और कुछ नहीं और कोई इंडिविजुअल क्वेरीज थी नो प्रॉब्लम इन दैट ठीक है तो अभी जितना पढ़ा है अपन और इसको कल वापस से व्हेन वी स्टार्ट we will quickly revise whatever we have studied so that it becomes thorough with you. Fine?
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. और कौन है भाई? Chavi, this is a particular topic that we are going to deal with differently. Okay, don't worry about it. Fine. This we will understand in human diversity, right? So we will understand it there again. This is just for the sake of example here. There we will also quote the thinkers, and we are also anyways going to write down when we are going to understand the scope of anthropology per se. Got it? Yes, anybody having a concern, please call me. No problem in that. Okay? Fine? Okay, yeah, Barsa. Just wait because I think the admin is going to have any communication with you. Barsa, unmute yourself. Ask the question.
Hi, sir. Sir, I'm audible, right?
Yeah, audible.
Okay. So, sir, I think it's too early to ask, but so can you give one example, like how in optional papers, is there any, like how are the questions are going to be, where the current affairs are related to anthropology studies? Can you give one example for that?
Current affairs related to this.
Right. Like in other subjects like political science and all, we know how they
See,
relate.
there you have majority part as current affairs, right? Current, it is not per se current affairs. Whatever phenomena are happening right now, they're going to understand it from what perspective? They're going to understand it from the foundational aspects of their subjects, right? Similarly, in anthropology, for example, whatever is happening in the tribal areas of India, let's say, when we talk about the relevance of anthropology, what is the relevance of anthropology? Maybe a question is asked related to relevance of anthropology to you, right? You are going to write down n number of points about the relevance, the approach that it uses, how it broadens our horizons, how it helps us in understanding the different dimensions of the culture. You'll talk about it. One of the dimension can be what? Climate change. It is a phenomena that we are encountering every day. Yes or no? And when we talk about the tribal populations, we know that they have been living in harmony with the forests, which has been recognized under the Forest Right Act 2006 also, which can be a big thing that the modern civilizations can learn, that living in harmony with the nature sustainably. It's an example. Any kind of protest that you see in the forested areas, they can be quoted as example. That when the outsiders are trying to disrupt this harmony, it leads to retaliation. In fact, Naxalism has its roots in that. Getting it? So this is how we can relate things which are happening around us and quote examples liberally. No problem in that. Got it?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay.